Well, it looks like the Dan Snyder saga is finally coming to an end, and when all is said and done, he will enter the Hall of Fame of terrible owners.
It was incredible.
Oh.
Lee bad.
Not directly forced out of the league, it was pretty clear his presence was unwelcome, and it was time for his ass to go by having to sell the team for a measly $6 billion. In doing so, he joins an elite fraternity of NFL owners who were essentially forced out of the league, some due to incompetence, cancellation, bankruptcy, and of course, scandal. NFL owners forced to sell their teams is coming up right after this. Art Modell, Baltimore Ravens. Bring up the name Art Modell in Cleveland and you would hear a string of expletives that would get this entire channel demonetized. Bring up his name in Baltimore and you will get a better reception. Now, Modell probably never wanted to sell the team as he bought the Browns in 1961 and moved them to Baltimore in 1996, bringing home a Super Bowl trophy in the year 2000. Unfortunately for Modell, the screw job he laid upon Cleveland ultimately led to him being forced to sell the team, as in 1997 he had to take out a $185 million loan package to fund the move, which was well beyond the league's borrowing limits for a franchise. He then sold a minority stake to current owner Steve Bisciotti, but was unable to come up with the rest of the money to pay his debt. Bisciotti smartly waited and then bought out Modell in 2004 for what would eventually be around $600 million, leaving the longtime owner, who made his fortune in sporting goods, on the outside looking in. I guess that was Cleveland's revenge on him. Though the late owner would definitely say that that shit was worth it. Jerry Richardson, Carolina Panthers. Recency bias will have you remember some of the details of Jerry Richardson's forced sale of the Panthers. But let's strap on a seatbelt and take a stroll down memory lane. Richardson was a former NFL player and champion who used his championship bonus to open Hardee's franchises in the South, eventually controlling over 2,500 restaurants. He was the original owner of the expansion Panthers starting in 1993 and held the team up to 2018 when things got messy. After he paid hush money to at least 4 employees, apparently that shit didn't work. In 2017, an article by Sports Illustrated detailed the significant amounts of money he doled out in an attempt to silence the knowledge of his rampant inappropriate comments and lecherous workplace behavior. And to top it off, let's throw in at least one incident of him using a racial slur which was directed at a scout. He also allegedly made it a requirement for jeans to be worn on Fridays and would rate the ladies based on how they fit into said jeans. Right to their faces, apparently. According to the report, he would make his female employees do a twirl for him and then make lewd, pervy comments. There's even more he did, but I don't have all day to detail this creep's behavior. On the same day the article broke, Richardson spared us all the drama and announced he would be selling. And sell he did for an NFL record at the time, $2.2 billion to hedge fund billionaire David Tepper. He also got a huge fine from the NFL and a signal from Goodell that you are not allowed to get caught Me Tooing in this league. After being canceled in 2018, a statue of him was removed in 2020, and then he just up and died in 2023. Ed DeBartolo Jr., San Francisco 49ers. Few NFL owners are as synonymous with success as Ed DeBartolo Jr., who was a winner in business and on the field. The shopping mall magnate won 5 Lombardis during his time as 49ers owner from 1977 to the year 2000. However, scandal and legal trouble would be what ultimately forced him out of the NFL. In 1992, he was accused of sexual assault by a cocktail waitress whom he settled out of court with. He survived that, but in 1998, he was involved in a scandal with former Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards, where DeBartolo essentially bribed Edwards $400,000 to obtain a riverboat casino license, or also known as just doing regular business in fucking Louisiana. After Edwards was pinched by the FBI, DeBartolo got exposed and Paul Tagliabue suspended him for a year, then fined him heavily. DeBartolo could have come back to the team in 2000, but instead he ceded control to his sister, who then passed ownership on to her son, Jed York, who, if you ask most 49ers fans, is no fucking Ed DeBartolo Jr. Eddie received a full presidential pardon in 2020 and is still loved and revered by his former players and fans alike, unlike his nephew. Real quick, I just dropped merch And I left a link down below in the description so you can own your very own Damn Son hoodie or coffee mug or t-shirt, or yeah, you get it. Now back to the vid. Ken Behring, Seattle Seahawks. Since 1997, the Seahawks have been owned by late Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen and his family, marking a very stable, successful time for the franchise. What many people forget is that the team used to get passed around like your mom at a frat party. Originally owned by the Nordstrom family, the team was then bought by Ken Behring and Ken Hoffman in 1988. Now, Ken Behring was a special kind of asshole. The real estate developer was accused multiple times of sexual harassment, and in all cases, he settled out of court. He was also a big game hunter and loved going to Africa to shoot him a rhinoceros in the face, or an endangered species or two, like some rare sheep in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan is the greatest country in the world.
In 1998, he shot and killed an elephant in Mozambique, which was illegal. But hey, none of that will cause you to lose your NFL franchise, as that seems to be standard rich white guy stuff, like, you know, tax evasion. No, what caused him to sell was in 1996, Behring thought he would move the team's operations to Anaheim in a blatant attempt to relocate the team to Southern California. The team also temporarily filed for bankruptcy in an attempt to make things seem dire. All those shenanigans pissed Paul Tagliabue off, and he threatened to fine the team $500K a day if they did not move their operations back to the Pacific Northwest. Instead, in 1996, Behring sold the team to Paul Allen for $200 million, a cool $120 million profit from his initial investment of $80 million. During his ownership, the Seahawks sucked shit through a straw, switched conferences twice, and didn't make the playoffs once. Behring died in 2019, and not a single Seahawks fan gave a shit. And finally, an owner forced to sell you may have never heard of. Billy Sullivan, New England Patriots. This may be shocking in today's world, but the Patriots' original owner had to sell the team because they were going broke? Yes, businessman Billy Sullivan founded the AFL's Boston Patriots in 1960 after the NFL denied his expansion bid. No worries, eventually the AFL merged with the NFL in 1966, and in 1971 he changed the name to the New England Patriots. Things were going okay until 1974, when after a rough stretch of losing and low revenues, he was ousted as president of the team. But he began to buy out his other shareholders surreptitiously to regain control of the franchise. He did this by literally manipulating a Massachusetts law to make what he did legal. Standard rich white guy stuff, you know? More on this later. After a series of bad investments, like funding the Jackson 5 Victory Tour in 1984, Sullivan and the Pats started taking on water. The lack of success from the tour hit him hard as he unwisely put up his stadium as collateral, and well, he did not see an ROI on his investment. Additionally, he was sued by his shareholders in 1986 and lost, forcing him to pay out dividends. In 1988, he saw the writing on the wall, and in a desperation heave, he attempted to sell 50% of the team to the general public as an IPO. The NFL swatted that idea down like Michael Jordan versus a Make-A-Wish kid. We can't have common folk owning an NFL team? And then the NFL stepped in and formed a committee that essentially took the team away from Sullivan. When asshole extraordinaire Hugh Culverhouse thinks you should sell your team, you should sell your team. He sold a minority stake in 1988 and then the entire team to James Orthwein in 1992. Orthwein only owned the team for a year and then filed for bankruptcy after trying to move the team to St. Louis, with him eventually selling the squad to Robert Kraft in 1994. A happy ending, if you will. After all this, Sullivan ended up suing the NFL in 1991 and was awarded $11 million, a fraction of the $116 million he was seeking. 7 years later, Billy Sullivan passed, and along with James Orthwein will go down in history as one of the few NFL owners who somehow fucked it all up. We're also looking at you, Dan Snyder. Enjoy the time on your yacht. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe so that I don't go broke. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.